Hello and welcome to the final round of the SMRC eSports Racing Autumn Cup, presented by Sim Broadcasts and powered by Reese Motorsport Insurance. It's Andy Alston with you in the commentary box here, and we're at another classic track in the world of motorsport as the drivers take to Suzuka for three here tonight. Danny Henney won the opener last time out at Silverstone, before overall champion and Autumn Cup winner Fraser Williamson did the double to take his tally to 19 wins for the season. But there's still, of course, lots up for grabs in the Autumn Cup standings, with just 8 points separating Henney and Josh Hislop for second place. Jack Hare, Kieran Smart both hot on their heels as well. So we've had a fantastic Autumn Cup schedule in Formula Renault. We've been to Red Bull Ring, Imola, Hungaroring, Interlagos, Suzuka, and Suzuka is the one where there's been so many great championships decided over the years, and it's a fantastic venue with lots of very tricky technical corners, swooping left and right handers, and we've got course, the hairpin as well in turns 10 and 11, which will be perhaps the scene of lots of drama once more here tonight. So, the drivers are out there on track at the moment. They're setting their qualifying laps just now, and we will be getting set for a 10-minute session, 4 timed laps. Jack Eyre had just heating the tyres up there somewhat to get the Formula Renault car into the operating window. These are cars that are a little bit tricky to get up and running. They just seem to be ones that they need a lap or two to really just bed in and get the tyres and the brakes up to optimum temperature, and that is so important in Formula cars, of course. The drivers have really got to take it nice and easy on the first lap in particular, and then they can start to make their way up the field. So 4 laps all in for the drivers out there, and it's quite a long lap in these Formula Renault, so it's got to be a very quick out lap to get the maximum 4 laps on the board. But Danny Heney will absolutely be one to watch here, because he said last time out and the post-race interviews that this is a circuit that he very much enjoys driving. Very quick around here. So expect Heney and Williamson to be having some great scraps throughout all 3 races. But there's been lots of pace throughout the field as well, of course, in these autumn cups. And a number of drivers keen to get themselves into podium contention. So the red car of Danny Heney that you see on track at the moment, the number 93 machine. Danny's had a very impressive autumn cup, it must be said. Lots and lots of pace and some great action throughout. And he's one who has finished on the top step of the podium on a number of occasions as well, but he'll be keen to end his season on a high at a track he is very familiar with. So it's 18 corners around the Suzuka track, and the first section, of course, the S curves into the Dunlop and Degner 1 and 2 will be very interesting to see how the drivers contend with that, because these cars are very light, very nimble, and perhaps if you can just keep the car on to perfection, you're well on the way to a very fast lap in qualifying. So what you're seeing on screen there at the moment is the Autumn Cup standings. So it's Fraser Williamson leading the way, the Mervano Sim Racing driver, on 448 points. Then you've got Josh Hislop, Danny Heney, both very close for second place in there. And you've got Jack Eyre, Kieran Smart also just 2 points separating them for 4th place at the moment. But looking further down the order as well, it's very tight, particularly as you get from 11th down to 18th. There's not a lot of points in that at all there. As we just see on the back of the screen there, Danny Heney's just gone off. It looks like it's at the S corners. He's into the pits, so that's damage for Heney, and that is going to cost him a lot of time here. He is the fastest man out there on track with a 158.3, but Fraser Williamson's also posted a 58.3. So Danny Heney had a little bit of a nervy start to qualifying for him, and that will be good news for Fraser Williamson. But of course, remember, the drivers are all out there on their own in qualifying and iRacing. There's not traffic out there to contend with. It's just them and the track ahead of them. So Danny Heney's got his work cut out here with a few minutes gone already in qualifying. Fraser Williamson currently second with 58.3, as we mentioned. Next, Josh Hislop, 0.3 of a second behind. Kyle Power in 4th, James McIntosh in 5th, with Kieran Smart in 6th place. Another man just worth keeping an eye out on is Jack Eyre, currently 7th, who's just dipped into the pits going off our timing screen and now back out. So perhaps Jack's had a little bit of a moment as well. Currently 7th place with a 159.5. And we've also got Mark Heron and Owen Ross both hot on his heels as well. It's Dale Smith rounding out the top 10 with a 2-minute.3. So quite a breadth of times we're seeing already, with 4 and a bit minutes left to go here at Suzuka. Let's follow Fraser Williamson now, the 369 car, our overall champion, of course, as well. The Mervano Sim Racing driver has been very impressive throughout, and he's had 19 wins throughout the season, and it's all been about consistency for Fraser. He's just one of these drivers that can produce the laps time and time again, and crucially keep that car out of trouble as well. And it's all about just picking up points, playing the long game, and that's why he is where he is in the standing. So let's follow Fraser for a lap of the Suzuka circuit as he makes his way down the long start-finish straight now and into the first corner. It's a bit of a double right-hander. You've got to get the entrance right to this one. It seriously compromises yourself on exit. Very easy to get the car dragged out wide here and onto the Astro, but Fraser just clipping the apex nicely on the right-hand side before letting the car drag out wide, using a little bit of the curb to just carry the speed with you into the S's here, and it's a really fast combination here. It's a right then into a left. We've got one more right coming up here, and this is the one you've got to get spot on here. You've got to get the car nice and settled before you make your way up this never-ending left-hander, which is the Dunlop curve. All about carrying the speed with you around this part of the track before the test of bravery that is Degner 1 and 2. All about getting the car hooked in nice and early. Fraser drops the car down into fifth gear, down into fourth, down into third, and then hooks that car up nicely on exit as well as he makes his way under the bridge and into the hairpin. Wants to keep the car all the way over to the right first, bang down the gears and hook the car up nicely on entrance. Using a little bit of the banking there as well to help rotate the car and get the power down nice and early as he makes his way along the right-hander here. This is down, it's turn 12 on the track before we go into another double corner. This time it's to the left for the spoon curve. A very, very tricky one to get right. Let's see how Fraser gets that one hooked up down 2 gears and into fifth here. It's all about using as much of the track as you dare get away with on the outside before bringing the car into the apex and down this very long straight here where slipstream could be absolutely crucial. And Fraser just bringing the car over to the left initially, and now it'll begin to just wash out to the right here, and you've got to get your apex spot on for this one or you're in all kinds of trouble for 130R. But it's a nice exit there for Fraser Williamson as he now goes down the gears once more into third gear, keeping the car nice and hooked, and eventually they're interestingly dropping into second gear very late, and that allows him to keep the revs nice and high on exit as he comes out of the chicane and down the start-finish line. Now, let's see if he can improve on his time. He's got a 158.3 to beat, and he's done just that. He's gone 158.2. He's taken a 10th off his best time, and that is all she wrote for Fraser Williamson. He parks the car up, and he is on provisional pole position at the moment. Danny Heney will be looking to do something about that, though. He's got one lap left in his locker. It's a 158.3 for the 93 red car. Let's see if he can beat Fraser Williamson to pole for the final time this year. He'll be very keen to make an impression on a circuit that we know he's very, very fond of. And let's see, just using a little bit of just the car just getting a little bit unsettled there almost round the S curves here as he makes his way around Dunlop curve for the last time of asking. It's a maximum of 4 time laps the drivers are allowed, and this will be it for Danny if he can improve. Look at that though, 1700ths of a second split in Williamson and Heney, and it just goes to show the speed and the caliber of these two drivers. Danny Heney looking promising here at the end of sector 1, coming under the bridge now and into the hairpin. This is where so many tenths of a second can be won or lost. You've got to brake absolutely spot on here and then carry the speed with you on exit. Danny taking a bit of a wider line into the hairpin there in comparison to Fraser. Fraser very keen to get the car hooked up on the apex. Danny's not so keen though. He's using the banking to bring the car around the corner and then carry the speed with him up the hill as he comes into spoon curve here now. First apex clip nicely, taking a bit more of the curb on the outside than Williamson here does Danny, and it's again using a lot of the curb and then some more on exit, so really trying to maximize the speed from that Formula Renault car. And that's all she wrote. Unfortunately, Danny Heney has not had enough time left to put another lap on the board. As you see on the top left of your screen, that is it for qualifying. So Fraser Williamson will start this race from pole position with Danny Heney and joining him on the front row of the grid. Disappointment for Heney there, just not enough time left on the board to improve on his lap. So it's Fraser Williamson starting this race with Danny Heney in second, Josh Hislop in third alongside Kyle Power, and Mark Herron in fifth place, Kieran Smart in sixth. So look at that, this after James McIntosh were over a second behind the race leader. So there is a real mix of speed out there on track, and we have got 22 cars out there at Suzuka, so it'll be interesting to see who can make their way as things unfold throughout the races. So it's 15 minutes, 3 times we're going to go around Suzuka for the last event of our SMRC eSports racing events on the iRacing platform, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one all shapes up. I have to say, another driver worth keeping an eye out on there is Ronald Grossman in 9th place with Jack Eyre in 10th as well. Jack's a driver that we know has got plenty of pace, and he'll be keen to improve on his starting position. 10th place on the grid at the moment for the Rethink Racing driver. So the drivers are just making their way out there on track. A couple of cars were just waiting on to take their starting positions on the grid. It's Danny Heney on the left-hand side, the red car, second place, but crucially starting this one from the inside line. So if he can get a clean launch here, he can put Fraser Williamson under serious pressure in the first corner. So the lights come up on screen for the first races of 3. We've got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights on. And they go very early this time round, and it's a good start for Kyle Power. He already jumped Josh Hislop from the start. Fraser Williamson cutting across the side of the track, taking the inside line to prevent Danny Heney from jumping up the inside. Heney's forced out wide, and Fraser Williamson just parts that car nicely on the apex to secure the lead of this race from Danny Heney. Kyle Power, the green car, in third place as well, just 0.5 of a second already behind the race leader. So it's been a very impressive start from Fraser Williamson, and I suspect he has thought long and hard about what he's going to do from the front row of the podium. That was a very, very calculated move from the Mervano Sim Racing driver. He darted across the track as quick as he could and shut the door nicely on Danny Heney. So Heney's got his work cut out here on the opener as they go into Digners 1 and 2 for the first time of asking. Looks like the drivers have all made it around relatively unscathed, and only driver who's just tumbled down the order, unfortunately, is Ronald Grossman, who's had a little bit of an incident, so he is now at the back of the pack. As they come into the hairpin for the first time of asking, Danny Heney now just dropped back a 10th at the hairpin from Fraser Williamson, with Kyle Power retaining third place in this race ahead of Kieran Smart, with Mark Heron in 5th. Josh Hislop, unfortunately, has not had a good start. He's gone from 3rd to 6th in the space of 10 corners or so. So let's see if he can go on a little bit of a recovery drive here as he just comes out of the slipstream there of Mark Heron, but not close enough, unfortunately, to make a move. Jack Eyre, however, has had a very impressive start to this race, up 3 places from where he started, and now setting his sights firmly on the green and white car of Josh Hislop and the blue car of Mark Heron in 5th place as well. So good start to race number 1 for Jack Eyre, and one certainly worth keeping an eye on here as the drama unfolds. And we've got further contact there, and off goes the 47, Richard Crozier. That's a big, big shunt. Yeah, and it's a coming together at 130R, and the wheels are hanging off, and he is out of this race. Big, big contact in the opener, and he is out. So disappointing start to the race for the 47 car, but making our way back up at the front and to the leaders, because we've got chase at the lead at the chasing back there. Danny Heney, Fraser Williamson exchanging places on entry into the first corner. Williamson on the outside. Danny Heney with the red car on the inside. Can he make it stick though? He's got his nose in front, but he's on the outside at the first part of the S's. He's not going to give this up without a fight. Now takes inside, but it's just a hop on the curb, and that's unsettled the car and allowed Fraser Williamson to retain the lead of this race. Danny Heney is not messing about here. He wants to get the move done nice and early on Fraser Williamson and set off into the sunset. We know he's got the pace, does the 93 car, but Fraser Williamson with a good bit of hard and fair defensive driving to retain the lead of this race, and that gap at the front is back up to 0.3 of a second. But all the meanwhile, Kyle Power just to stay with the 2 cars ahead of him, and he'll be perhaps wondering, will they come together here? And I can just hoover up the positions ahead of me. Let's ride on board with the number 6 car, Kyle Power, who has had a very impressive Autumn Cup, it must be said. Very, very quick driver, and one who is more than capable of finishing on the podium, because he's had 4 third place finishes so far in this Autumn Cup, and he'll be keen to get back into contention once more here. Currently on course for his 5th trip to the podium at the moment, but we've got Kieran Smart, Josh Hislop, Mark Heron, and indeed Jack Eyre all keen to have their say as well. And look at the gap back at the front though. Henry's got a very good run out of Spoon Curve. It's down to under 0.1 of a second as we ride on board with the race leader Fraser Williamson making his way into the hairpin, into the chicane, I should say, for the second time of asking. 3 and a bit minutes gone in this race. Look at the green car of Kyle Power having a move. And Kieran Smart, Josh Hislop, Mark Heron all very much closing the gap down here as well. So we have a bit of a 4-car lead at the front here. Let's see if Danny Heney will make a move here as we approach the 3rd lap of this race. He's staying in the slipstream for now. Will he dart off to the inside? In fact, he goes to the outside this time, Danny Heney. He's going to go the long way around. Fraser Williamson just squeezing him ever so slightly on the entrance. But again, there's a good gap between the two of them. Nice, clean and fair racing between our 2 leaders. Williamson once more hanging on to the lead of this race. Now Danny Heney stuck on the outside once more, not having to contend with the Cubs this time round, and they get very, very close between the 2 of them. Danny Heney just backing out there. He had his nose in front, not managed to make it stick, unfortunately, as they go up the Dunlop curve. So it's still Fraser Williamson hanging on to the lead of this race, but Kyle Power and Kieran Smart are now very much into contention. There's about 0.3 of a second between first and fourth here. Kyle Power looking to make moves on Danny Henny. So Henny's got to look at the rear view mirrors as well as the car in front. It's a tricky situation for the 93 car as Kyle Power just gets a little bit unsettled on the exit of Degner 2. That's bringing Kieran Smart, the yellow and black car, into contention once more. But Kieran's just a little bit too far behind and not going to throw the car up the inside into the hairpin. So it's still Williamson leading this race. 0.1 of a second is the gap from Danny Henny. Will Henny make a move into Spoon Curve? I wonder. It's a tricky one to get a pass done. He does momentarily dip out the slipstream, but it's just a move to get Williamson looking into his rear view mirrors, just unsettle him. Perhaps he'll miss his apex, and then he can make a move down the long straight and into that tricky left-hander that away. So it's 0.1 of a second once more. Another good run from Danny Henny out of Spoon Curve. He seems to be doing that time and time again. That's given him an extra couple of miles an hour down the straight. He's side by side, in fact, this time round, and that's a very good and clean move from Danny Henny. But he's got to go on the defensive now into the chicane. Henny on the inside, Williamson on the outside. But Henny clips his breaking point to perfection there and secures the lead of this race. Williamson now forced to go the long way around once more, decides to think better of it and goes into the slipstream. Kyle Power, though, one to keep an eye on here. They've got the two cars at the front, but Kyle Power's not giving up without a fight. Williamson now trying to do a repeat on Henny. Williamson going the long way around now and back onto the racing line, swoops round this right-hander and back into the lead of the race from Danny Henny. And that's been so much drama, and we're only on the fourth lap. Henny and Williamson exchanging places here, and the 369 car back into the lead here at Suzuka. But Kyle Power, I suspect, is the man we want to watch here. The green car in third place, biding his time here at the moment, but of making moves, and I wonder when he is going to strike, because Henny is really just battling tooth and nail with Fraser Williamson. Last time out, it was a 2 minutes 0.2 from Fraser Williamson. It's a 1:59.8 from Danny Henny, but it's allowing Kyle Power to just put in a consistent lap times, use the slipstream into the bargain, and stay with these two cars at the front. So Kyle Power here in the prime seat at the moment, third place in the race as we approach the midway point of the opening event here tonight. Kyle Power now just got a little bit of a gap from Kieran Smart. In fact, it looks like about 0.6 of a second or so. So Kieran Smart just falling off, unfortunately. So it's a battle for three cars here at the moment. Kieran Smart's got to get a couple of quick laps on the board to get himself back into contention. But Fraser Williamson this time, 0.3 of a second is the gap between him and Danny Henny. Will that be enough, though, to fend off a threat from the red car into the chicane? Henny going out, just coming out the slipstream and going into the outside, but that is crucially the racing line. Williamson having to go defensive, Henny temporarily ahead, and that's a move round the outside. Will that stick? That's an impressive bit of driving from Danny Henny. He's got to clip his braking point to perfection once more, and he does just that. Fantastic bit of driving from Danny Henny, and he goes back into the lead of this race, but Williamson says he's not done just yet. Williamson, I suspect, is going to make a move once more down the start-finish rate. And here we go. Danny Henny goes very, very wide this time. He invites Williamson to take the inside. We've got a back marker there just coming in front of us, and that's bringing Fraser Williamson to the inside line. Williamson will get a little bit of draft here from the back marker, and Williamson once more goes into the lead of this race from Danny Henny, with Kyle Power still very much in there and looking to make a move as well. So Henny from Power now in third, Kieran Smart in fourth place, and now it's been a good lap last time round actually for Kieran Smart at 59.5, and he'll be one keen to make a move because there's a good gap between him and Josh Hislop and Mark Heron now. Both drivers have just dropped off ever so slightly. So back at the front though, Kyle Power, let's follow him here. I've got a back marker just a couple of cars ahead of us from Henny and Williamson, so let's hope that both cars can make it through cleanly as they make their way down into the hairpin for the fifth time of asking here. We've got 4 and a bit minutes left in this race, so I suspect we'll get about 2, maybe 3 laps left in this one. And Fraser Williamson, 0.4 of a second now is the gap between him and Danny Henny. So I wonder if Williamson will have enough here just to fend off the threat of Henny once more. Henny seems very, very quick coming out of the Spoon Curve, and that's bringing him into contention into the chicane, and I suspect the that Danny Henny and Fraser Williamson may well be two of the early contenders for the Reese Motorsport Insurance Driver of the Day award, which we'll be presenting for the final time here tonight after race number 3. So let us know who you think should be given this accolade by commenting in your sections below. We're live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube as well. Fraser Williamson managing to retain the lead of the race and take a little bit of a gap from Danny Henny into the bargain as well. It's 0.4 of a second as they make their way down the start-finish straight. Let's follow the red car of Danny Henny and see if he can just use that slipstream just to close the gap once more. I think he's a bit that car up the inside into turn 1, so it might be later in the lap before Henny can make a move. And indeed, Fraser Williamson doesn't bother to defend this when he knows he's got it covered. He just focuses on taking the racing line and getting his apexes and exits nice and clean. So Williamson's still leading the race, and it's been a dramatic opener here tonight at Suzuka. And Danny Henny just taking an unorthodox line there into the S-curves, just looking to unsettle Fraser Williamson, trying every trick in the book here to put Williamson under pressure. These are two very, very fast drivers at the top of their game and treating us to a fantastic battle here tonight. But it's still Fraser Williamson leading this race. 0.2 of a second now is the gap from Henny, so he's half the gap in 8 or 9 corners. But Williamson's made the first mistake of the night. Williamson's gone wide at Degner 2. That's going to bring Danny Henny into play here at the hairpin. He's just a little bit too far back to make a move, but Henny now will have his tail up. Fraser Williamson's going to be reeling from that mistake there as the car's got a little bit unsettled on exit, taking a bounce over the curves, but thankfully stays on the track. But Danny Henny will know that. He knows that Williamson will be a little bit nervous now as they make their way into Spoon Curve. This is the corner that we know Henny's very strong. Clips the first apex to perfection, takes a little bit of the curb, and then once more. Look how much earlier he is onto the second apex there compared to Williamson. Henny's just hooking that car up very, very nicely on exit. That's giving him the drive down this long straight. We've got a back marker to contend with. Williamson looking to take a little bit of that slipstream to defend into 130R. Williamson just darts back out onto the racing line. Henny's just quite content to sit behind at the moment. But will he throw the car up the inside into the chicane? And again, just thinking better of it once more. Going to make a move later on in this race as we almost approach the 12-minute mark. So I think this will be us approaching the penultimate lap of the opener here tonight. And still Henny looking to chase down Fraser Williamson. It's 1/10 of a second quicker last time was Henny. Right into the slipstream once more. Will he dart that car up the inside? Once more, he decides not to do it. So Danny Henny just relaxing, just biding his time here, and eventually he'll pick his point to strike. And I wonder if it will be coming out the exit of Spoon Curve on the last lap of this race. He seems very, very confident around the second part of the track. So it looks like we're now into a 2-horse race for the win here tonight, because Kieran Smart's putting Kyle Power under a little bit of pressure, and Kyle Power's just dropped off ever so slightly, has the green car, with Josh Hislop just further down the road in 5th place as well. So just further back, a couple of drivers worth giving a shout out to. Aidan Wilson started in 16th up into 11th. David Bolton started this one in 17th up into 13th as well. So 2 drivers who have had a very impressive opener. Has Jackie Chalmers up 7 places from the starting position. So there's been moves all the way through the field, but it's this action at the pack that we just can't take our eyes off at the moment, because it's been some fantastic and hard-fought racing for 13 full minutes, and we're going to go for one more lap after this one. Danny Henny 0.4 of a second behind, so just dropping off this time, but this is the key corner for the 93 car as he looks to close the gap to Williamson ahead of him. Look at that. Danny Henny just running a little bit wide there, in fact, but it's not really cost him too much time. The car's nice and balanced as he comes out of the exit. And now look at the 10th of a second, going to gradually close down here as they make their way along this long, never-ending straight and into 130R. Williamson goes very, very narrow and defensive initially before hooking back out to the racing line, and in he goes to 130R, and the gap's down to 1/10 of a second. Williamson goes very, very defensive once more into the chicane, and once more closes the door on Danny Henny as we approach what will surely be the final lap of this race coming up in just a moment. Fraser Williamson 0.2 of a second is the gap. Look how narrow he's putting that car, and that is forcing Danny Henny to go the long way around here, and out indeed does come the white flag. This is the last lap of the race here, so Danny Henny's got to make a move now as they go side by side into the first corner. Henny's going the long way around, unfortunately for him. Fraser Williamson parking that car on the apex nicely as well. That is much to the frustration of Henny, who won't be able to get away past. But Josh Hislop is making moves, though. He goes He goes into fourth place of this race with a move on Kieran Smart. Kyle Powers just set off into the sunset, so he will surely take his fifth podium in this Autumn Cup, barring a disaster. Back at the front, 0.2 of a second is the gap between the pair of them as they go into Degner's 1 or 2 for the last time. It's not really an overtaking opportunity, unfortunately, so Danny Henny's just got to bide his time here and get a nice clean exit out of these two corners as they head under the bridge for the last time. Danny Henny darting out of the slipstream just to get Williamson looking into his rear view mirrors. This is a crucial corner. You've got to get your braking point absolutely spot on here. Danny Henny taking a late apex there, and he's taking it a little bit neater than Fraser there as well. Fraser's going defensive as he looks to secure the lead of this race. It's been great action between the pair of them, and it's not done yet as we go into Spoon Curve, this tricky left-hand double apex corner. Let's see if Henny will make a move here as they go into the corner now. Both cars hit the apex nicely, nice and clean from the pair of them, but Danny Henny once more closer to the apex, the second one, and that's bringing him the speed down the hill here and along this long straight. Can Danny Henny make a move into 130R? He's committing nice and early, goes into the inside. Williamson tries to squeeze him. Henny's momentarily got that nose in front. He's got the inside line into 130R. Has he done enough to make the move? Yes, he has. Danny Henny goes into the lead of this race, but Williamson looks like he's going to have a move back. He goes onto the outside of the chicane, but Danny Henny closes the door, does a 93 car. A fantastic bit of defensive driving from the red 93 car. He goes very narrow once more down this left-hander. Williamson is right up the rear wing of that car, but it's not quite enough. And Danny Henny takes the win in the opener here at Suzuka. That's 7/100ths of a second from him and Fraser Williamson. Kyle Power securing an impressive podium position for him. Josh Hislop in fourth, Kieran Smart in fifth. Mark Herring securing sixth place in this race as well. What an opener that was here tonight. But it's Danny Henny who makes the move and takes the win here tonight in the opener. Fantastic bit of driving between those two cars. And I tell you what, if that was anything to go by, we're going to be set for two excellent races once more here tonight. So Fraser Williamson will be disappointed not to have managed, unfortunately for him. It's been a good drive between the two of them. So Fraser Williamson, our Autumn Cup champion, our overall champion, he's been fantastic throughout, but he'll want to finish his campaign on a high here. And it's Danny Henny who strikes first here tonight. So Henny from Williamson, Kyle Power in third place. And the great thing about these SMRC eSports racing events is we'll do it all again in just a couple of minutes' time as the last few cars make their way across the start-finish line and collect the checkered flag. Jonathan Glover and 16th place, the recovering Richard Crozier, who had that big shunt at 130R, will start this second race here tonight from 17th place on the grid. One driver worth keeping an eye on here to see if he can make his way through the field. So just a few moments to go before race number 2 here tonight, and it will be Danny Henny starting from pole position ahead of Fraser Williamson with Kyle Power in third place. But look at that, 10 seconds the gap between first and 7th place in Heat 1. But just further down the field, another couple of drivers worth keeping an eye on. Jack Eyre into supposed to be starting this race from 9th place, a driver with lots of pace, but just didn't quite manage to get close enough to James McIntosh, unfortunately, in the opener. But James McIntosh, Owen Ross, two drivers that we know are very quick in their own right as well. So, so much drama, so much to unpack from that race. But it was the action at the front that was so close. And let's see if Fraser Williamson can get his own back in race number 2, because the cars are already out there on grid. So Henny starting from the front row of the grid, but crucially this time it will be Fraser Williamson starting from 2nd place. So Williamson will have the inside line. And in fact, they've gone very early indeed this time round. So Williamson's got the inside line, but Danny Henny has got a much cleaner start, and he takes the lead of this race comfortably. And in fact, Fraser Williamson coming under a little bit of pressure here from the green car of Kyle Power. Kyle Power was initially on the outside, but just tucking back into the slipstream of the 369 car. So Henny leading from Fraser Williamson. 0.2 of a second is the gap between the two cars at the front, with Kyle Power in third place, followed by Josh Hislop and Jack Eyre, who has had a terrific start to this race. He's gone from 9th to 5th in the space of a couple of corners. So a fantastic start to the race for the Rethink Racing driver. Jack Eyre, let's see if he can continue to make his way up the order. That's been a great couple of corners from the number 13 car, and he'll now set his sights very much on the cars of Josh Hislop and Kyle Power. Further back, though, Owen Rush has just dropped back slightly. Started this one in 7th, but now down into 8th. And he's got James McIntosh and Sean Dobie hot on his heels as well. But let's take a look at a couple of other drivers who have had a good start. John Higgins Jr. being one of them. Started in 18th and already up into 11th. Gaz Brown started in 21st place and up into 13th. So there's been a couple of drivers making some serious moves. But note on your left-hand side, there's a number of drivers in the pits. So there's been a little bit of drama, unfortunately, in the opening here, because we've got Dale Smith, Aidan Wilson, David Bolton, and Stu Winus all in the pits and all taking repairs. So unfortunately, we've lost a couple of cars in the first lap, as Sean Dobie, John Higgins, Gaz Brown, Owen Ross has had a moment, unfortunately, and there he is just recovering on the exit of Spoon Curve. He's going tumbling down the order, has the 420 car. But let's take a look back at the front, though, because it's Henny from Williamson, Kyle Power still in 3rd place with Josh Hislop in 4th, and Jack Hare in 5th place here in this race. So it's been an impressive opener from Danny Henny, who is managing just to keep Williamson at bay here. Will Williamson try and make an early move here? Or will he just decide to wait a while and then strike later in this race? So 0.3 of a second quicker was Danny Henny than Williamson on the opening lap. Kyle Power in 3rd place. Josh Hislop looking to end that. However, Josh Hislop is gone up the inside of Kyle Power and into 3rd place in this race with a nice clean move that he got done nice and early into the first corner. And he takes 3rd place in this race, but he's about a second or so behind the front two of Henny and Williamson. And Fraser Williamson just dropping back ever so slightly around the S-curves here. Now the gap's gone from 2 to 0.3 of a second between him and the red 93 car of Danny Henny. So let's see if Fraser can just begin to close that gap down, because it's been a great couple of corners from Danny Henny on lap number 2 here as they go into Degners 1 and 2. And Fraser Williamson won't want to fall out of that slipstream at this stage in the race, because at that point it then becomes a defensive drive for him, because he's got lots of drivers hot on his heels who have got bags of pace as well. So Fraser's got a couple of good corners under his belt here. But further back, Gaz Brown, who had an impressive start to this race, finds himself beached in between Degners 1 and 2 after coming into a little bit of contact. And unfortunately for him, he's going to have to take a tow, and he goes into the pits. So Jonathan Glover joining Gaz Brown in the pit lane, unfortunately. And that's a shame for Gaz, because it was a very strong start to his race, but he's now got it all to do. So back at the front, Josh Hislop, after making moves on Kyle Power, now looking to set his sights on Williamson and Henny. And I reckon he's not too far back off slipstream range here. So if Josh Hislop can just hook that car up nicely, he could bring himself very much into contention here for this race. Mark Kerr and Kieran Smart had a good scrap in the opener. Let's take a look at the 91 of Mark Kerr in the white and blue car here, setting his sights on Kieran Smart and looking to make a move here into the chicane, but Kieran Smart's got that covered nicely. He parks the car on apex, hops over the curbs and then some, and managing to secure 6th place at the moment in this race. Mark Herron's been a driver with lots of pace, it must be said, and had went into this championship on 8th place. And he's got Michael Weddle ahead of him in the standings, but Michael Weddle, unfortunately, not competing. So Mark Herring has got a real chance here of going up the championship table here in the Autumn Cup. But a good bit of defensive driving there from Kieran Smart, which shuts the door once more on Herring. So back at the front, though, Williamson looking to make moves on Danny Henny. We've got a back marker just getting out of the way for the first 4 cars. Williamson, though, down to 0.2 of a second is the gap. Last time out, it was the fastest lap of the race from Danny Henny with a 1:58.4. That was just under 0.2 of a second quicker than the Renault Sim Racing driver of Fraser Williamson. But it's Williamson not close enough to make a move here into debt. Is a part of the fact where both of these drivers aren't willing to throw the car up the inside. They'd rather bide their time and then go into the chicane. So Williamson just taking a nice line into the hairpin, trying to maximise speed on exit, and then he just really wants to stay with Danny into Spoon Curve, because that's a part of the track that Henny has got hooked up very, very nicely indeed. And let's see if Fraser can now put the pressure on Danny Henny, because it's a little bit of role reversal almost between these two. It was Williamson hanging on in the lead and defending with all his might, but then it was Henny who made the move later on in the race. Unfortunately, Owen Ross has come into a little bit of contact there and put Robert McGregor into the tyre wall, and I think he might well just have to take a tow, unfortunately, because he's got that car facing the wrong way at a challenging part of the track. Back at the front, though, it's under 0.1 of a second between Williamson and Henny, but Williamson unable to make a move this time round. Darts into the inside, but Danny Henny taking the racing line and defending his position nicely from Fraser Williamson, but will he have enough about him to make a move down the start-finish line? Does Fraser Williamson? So Henney goes, it looks like he was initially going narrow, but he sells him a dummy, and Danny Henney goes out wide, so it looks like he's Danny Henney fancies his chances of holding that red car on the outside. Does he have enough about him to make it stick, perhaps? Or is he looking for a cutback here into the S's? But it's Fraser Williamson who momentarily goes into the lead of this race with a 0.2 of a second gap into the back. And he's got a back marker ahead of him, so that's going to make life a little bit difficult for him here, unfortunately, as he's got Danny Henney looking to make a move here as they go up the Dunlop curve for the fourth time of asking. It's Williamson from Henney as the back marker just begins to get out of the way there, thankfully, for the leaders with a good bit of clean driving. But Williamson now got 0.2 of a second between him and Henney. So let's see if he's got enough about him just to defend here as they make their way into Degner's 1 and 2. Such high-speed corners here. It's very easy to get them wrong as well. But both cars take it nice and cleanly. But it's a very good run indeed from Danny Henney. But he knows he's not willing to throw that car up the inside and into the hairpin. So both cars a little bit wide of the apex there, but it's not so bad into that corner because, of course, you've got the banking just to carry the car around the corner. But 0.3 of a second is the gap now between Williamson and Henney, with Josh Hislop looking to get involved as well. But Kyle Power and Jack Eyre also in 4th and 5th place, very much capable of getting themselves into podium contention as well. Jack Eyre's got a little bit of breathing space between him and Kieran Smart, so Jack Eyre can just focus on getting the fast laps in, and they've been consistent ones as well. His best time tonight is a 1:59.3. It was a 1:59.4 last time out, so it's good stuff from the Rethink Racing driver. Back at the front, though, Danny Henney just keeping the car nice and tight into the 130R. Will he throw the car up the inside into the chicane? He thinks better of it. Danny does. Danny Henney. Fraser Williamson's got that move covered, and as they make their way down the start-finish straight one more, and we reach the halfway point of race number 2. It's been a good exit there from Fraser Williamson, it must be said, out of the chicane. That's going to be surely enough about him just to fend off the threat first corner, that long right-hander, and Williamson could just focus on apex and exits here, and he doesn't need to look at the rear view mirrors quite so much this time round. So Williamson still hanging on to the lead of this race. He's got Hislop, Power and Eyre just a little bit further back now, so again it looks like a 2-horse race for the win here tonight in race number 2. Looks like Danny Henney just taking a narrower line there into the final part of the S-curves, but that means that he can just keep the car nice and balanced. This is the crucial one, that final right-hander here, because you've got to get that one spot on to take the momentum with you up the hill and along Dunlop curve. So it's still 0.3 of a second is the gap between Williamson and Henney. Last time out, it was a 59.5. Williamson, Danny Henney had a little bit of a moment there, perhaps towards the end of the lap, so it was a 2-minute.1 for him. But he's very much closing the gap down once more. 0.3 of a second is still the difference between Williamson and Henney on the 5th lap of this race. Williamson defending with all his might once more, and he's got to really, really make that Formula Renault car as wide as he can, because Danny Henney's a driver that we know has got some really, really impressive overtaking manoeuvres in his locker. It's a track he knows inside out, and he'll be using every inch of the tarmac to throw his red car up the inside and into the lead of this race as they make their way around Spoon Curve. Both cars neat and tighty on the entrance and exit as well. Let's see if Henney can make a move down the straight here. He's got a good run on exit into 1/10 of a second. Danny Henney, will he come out up the inside of 130R? He does indeed. He goes side by side with Fraser Williamson momentarily ahead into the corner. He's already got the move stuck before they turn in. Danny Henney goes back into the lead of this race from Fraser Williamson. Let's ride on board with Fraser Williamson here as he makes his way through the chicane here. He takes a big helping of the curb on exit, on entrance, not quite so much on exit, but will Williamson have enough about him here to take a run down the start-finish straight and exchange places once more with Henney? Henney goes into the middle of the track here and forcing Williamson to commit early, but in fact, Williamson make that move look easier. Danny Henney just moving off to the inside, allowing Fraser Williamson to go up the inside, and we go again once more with under 5 minutes left in this race. So it'll be 2 and a bit laps to go in race number 2. Williamson once more in the lead of this race, and he must defend with all his might from the red car of Danny Henney. And Josh Hislop just a little bit further back now, and he'll be looking to cement 3rd place at a minimum in this race. So Williamson once more has got to defend from Henney. It's been fantastic battling between the two of them in this Autumn Cup, and it's been more of the same again here tonight. A really, really interesting tactical battle here as well between the pair of them, because Williamson has got to really, really defend here, and he's got to just continue focusing on the rear view mirror, but also clipping his bacon points, and also just getting that car hooked up nice and consistently as well. But he's a driver that we know is able to just put the fast laps in time and time again, but that's not so easy when you've got someone hunting you down like Danny Henny. And let's see if he can just use that momentum once more as he makes the curve. And it's Henny looking to make a move once more. Will he do it this time, or will he perhaps wait until the last lap of the race once more before he shows his hand in this one? So Danny Henny, 0.3 of a second once more. It seems to be a recurring theme. It's about 0.3 of a second between the two of them, and then Henny uses that slipstream to close the gap once more. He's not got enough about him, I suspect, this time round to make a move. So let's take a look further down the order, as we've got Ronald Grossman looking to put Cameron Ritchie under all sorts of pressure here as he come around the exit of Spoon Curve. The 90 car of Ronald Grossman taking a little bit of that slipstream there as Cameron Ritchie looks to try and break the toe here, but Ritchie committing to the inside and looks like he's got that move covered. So let's go back to the leaders then, as Henny and Williamson go across the start-finish line with 3 and a bit minutes left to go in this race. Gap between the pair of them, but Ronald Grossman, there he is, he's made the move on Cameron Ritchie, and Ronald Grossman goes into 12th place in this race. 3 seconds up the road is Sean Dobie, so it'll be a good scrap for 12th between Grossman and Ritchie. Owen Ross perhaps a little bit too far behind to make a move. So let's go back to the action at the front here. Danny Henny has got 0.2 of a second between him and the 369 car of Fraser Williamson. It was a much faster lap last time around for Fraser Williamson, a 159.1. It was a 59.7 for Danny Henny. So it's been 2 challenging laps for Henny, but this is the one that's going to count here, because he's got to really close the gap and get himself into top step of the podium mode here, because Fraser Williamson just beginning to pull away ever so slightly here with a couple of very, very quick laps. Don't forget, let us know who you think our Reese Motorsport Insurance driver of the day should be. We'll announce the winner after race number 3. So leave a comment from wherever you're watching. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Let us know what you think about this action as well, because it's been some fantastic battling here at the front between Williamson and Henny, and it's not over yet. Let's go into Spoon Corner for the 7th time and see if Fraser Williamson can just hold on to the lead of this race once more. Williamson taking a wider line into the second part of that corner, trying to maximise speed on exit. Danny Henny goes much narrower. Let's ride in the cockpit here of Danny Henny and get a fantastic driver's eye view. This is exactly what Danny Henny will see on his rig here. He's got a gap down to under 0.1 of a second. He goes almost side by side, thinks better of it, and Fraser Williamson momentarily really doing once more here, but will he manage to defend into the chicane? And Danny Henny just drops back a bit, in fact, and Williamson lives to fight another day. Once more breathless action here at the front. Fantastic stuff between the pair of them. Nice, clean, hard, and fair racing at the front. But it's Fraser Williamson looking to take the top step of the podium. The white flag comes out, so this will be the last lap of the race. Fraser Williamson does not want to see a repeat of what happened in the opener, where Danny Henny made a move on the last lap, but it's 0.2 of a second in between the pair of them as Henny looks to narrow that gap now. It's a good run out the exit of the first corner for the red car. Let's see if Danny Henny has got enough about him to make a move here. It's not this part of the track where he wants to make the move, of course. He just wants to keep that car nice and settled in the slipstream around the S's. It's difficult to do in these cars, but Danny Henny is making it look easy. Let's see if he can now begin to reel in the 369 car of Fraser Williamson as we go up the Dunlop curve. It's the gap is 0.4 of a second, so Williamson's just hooked that car up a little bit better around the curves as they go into Degners 1 and 2, and using a little bit more of the curb on exit at the first corner, hooks that apex up to perfection on Degner 2. So the gap goes from 0.4 of a second to 0.2 of a second. We've got a back marker ahead of us, but they shouldn't really get involved into this mix. I think they'll be a little bit too far up the road. But Williamson runs wide there into the hairpin. That is music to the ears of Danny Henny as he looks to close the gap and put the pressure never-ending turn 12, this right-hander before they go into the tricky double left-hander of Spoon. Danny Henny gets that gap down to 0.1 of a second now, but will this be the moment where he strikes? Danny Henny looking to make it 2 for 2 here at a track that we know he loves. He goes up the inside here almost into sprint curves because Fraser Williamson's had a little bit of a moment on exit. That's bringing Danny Heney into contention here. He goes into the slipstream, does the red car. Williamson goes narrow. He's forcing Heney the long way round, and he does just that. Danny Heney goes round the outside into 130R. Can he make this move? Stick, he does. Danny Heney makes the move before they go into the corner. Fraser Williamson taking the slipstream with him, and can he throw the car up the inside into the chicane? He's got to go the long way around once more. Danny Heney's got that car hooked up nicely into the chicane, but it's a good exit from Fraser Williamson. Will it be enough for them? There's a little bit of contact between them on exit. Danny Heney comes across the start-finish line and makes it 2 wins for 2 here at Suzuka. It's Heney from Williamson with Josh Hislop on the final step of the podium. That's been fantastic driving once more, but it's Danny Heney who is once again on the top step of the podium. Fantastic action once more between those two drivers. And, well, I cannot wait for the finale because it's been 2 really good scraps between those guys at the front as the final few cars make their way around the start-finish line, and Owen Ross being one of them who will finish in 4th. So we've got Dale Smith, Stu Wyness, Robert McGregor, all those cars, of course, recovering after having incidents, unfortunately, earlier in this race. David Bolton, Gaz Brown, Jonathan Glover not able to return to track. So don't forget, of course, the last race tonight is a reverse grid. So it will be James McIntosh starting this one from the front row and indeed pole position in this race, with Mark Heron joining him on the front row of the grid. Heron's had an impressive race, as indeed has James McIntosh. It'll be interesting to see how both of those cars contend with in the last one. But Fraser Williamson and Danny Heney, it must be said, fantastic scrapping between the two of them, as we've been treated to throughout this Autumn Cup. And we'll go once more for a last time this year at Suzuka in a few moments' time. But let's just enjoy this action here between Dale Smith and Stuart Wyness. Both cars scrapping for 17th place in this race. Dale Smith's got a gap of a good 4/10 of a second or so. So I suspect Dale Smith will come across the start-finish line to take 16th place in this race. Unfortunately for him, Dale started this one in a little bit higher up in the grid, but he's going to come home in 16th place, unfortunately for him. But a shout out to Richard Crozier in 10th place. Started this one in 17th, of course, had that incident at 130R in the opener, so a very strong drive from him. Ronald Grossman finishing in 12th after starting in 19th place. Cameron Ritchie starting in 20th and following home in 13th place. So a number of drivers making their way up the order. John Higgins Jr. worth giving a shout out to as well, starting in 18th and finishing in 9th. So a fantastic bit of driving from the number 5 car, and unfortunately for him, he won't start in pole position. He just missed out on pole for the reverse grid, but a very quick driver and one who I'll be looking forward to seeing how he gets on in the finale here tonight. So we've got a gap of 5 minutes or so between now and the final race here tonight. So the drivers will be about to do a little bit of a warm-up, a little bit of a finale, just to get the car, maybe work on a corner or two that they're maybe not so comfortable with. But they've got 5 minutes just to compose themselves and get set for the final race tonight. David Bolton is just going to bring the number 4 car across the start-finish line here and into 20th place. So he will collect points, of course, as well. The remaining drivers around him in this one, we can get points up to 25th place in this championship. So it will be a couple of points on the board for David Bolton, but he'll be keen to make amends and make his way up the order in the final race here tonight. So we'll be back in a few moments' time for the final race for the last time here this season in our SMRC eSports racing events. We'll be back in a few moments for the finale, and I look forward to seeing you then. Welcome back to the SMRC eSports Racing Autumn Cup, a series presented by Sim Broadcast and powered by Reese Motorsport Insurance. It's Andy Alston with you here, and we're just a few minutes away from the last race here this evening, and indeed the last race this season, as we are in the Formula Renault at Suzuka, and I think we're going to be in for a real treat once more here tonight. We've had two fantastic races so far, with Danny Heney winning both of them, but it's been some fantastic action between him and Fraser Williamson. Kyle Power was on the final step of the podium in the opener, and then it was Josh Hislop in race number 2. But with the reverse grid coming into contention, of course, for this one, that's going to add a little bit of drama into the mix as well. So we'll be all set for some great scraps. This reverse grid, I have to say, has been a fantastic addition to the final, all the more dramatic as we see drivers with pace looking to keep their positions up there, and it brings a real tactical battle into this one as well. So it will be James McIntosh starting this race from pole position alongside Mark Herron, Keenan Smart in third with Jack Eyre in fourth, Kyle Power in fifth, Josh Hislop in sixth, and then it's the two of Fraser Williamson and Danny Heney, with John Higgins in 9th, Richard Crozier in 10th, Sean Dobie in 11th, and Ronald Grossman starting this race in 12th place. After that, we've got Cameron Ritchie and Owen Ross, Jackie Chalmers in 15th, Dale Smith in 16th, with Stuart Wyness in 17th. Robert McGregor will be starting this race in 18th, and keen to make amends after unfortunately being unable to finish the second race tonight. And it will be Aidan Wilson, David Bolton, Gaz Brown, and Jonathan Glover rounding out the final few places, I should say, here tonight. So the lights go up, the drivers take their places on the grid, and they go early once again here for the final time here tonight. The drivers are already making their way down the start-finish line. It's the red car of James McIntosh in the lead from the blue and white car of Mark Herron, who line around the first turn to secure second place in this race. But Danny Heney already up into 6th, Fraser Williamson already up into 5th place as well. But it's been a good start for our two leaders here in the final race tonight. But it's Mark Herron going into the lead because, unfortunately, that car into the tyre wall. Disaster for the 36 car after a promising couple of corners, but it's all gone wrong towards the exit of the S curves. And James McIntosh goes tumbling down the order. But one man to keep an eye on is Jack Eyre, who finds himself now in second place in this race, does the purple, grey and black Rethink Racing car, and he will set his sights firmly on Mark Eyre here, and he could find himself in the lead of this race. Just further back, though, Josh Hislop coming under a little bit of pressure from John Higgins Jr., with Ronald Grossman making a move on Sean Dobie just further behind. But Jack Eyre is looking like very, very lively and looking increasingly likely to put Mark Herron in a little bit of pressure here. Let's take a look down a couple of other drivers, though. And in fact, there's been contact between the pair of them. There's been contact between Jack Eyre and Mark Herron. We were very, very close together, and they've come together at Spoon Curve. Jack Eyre, I suspect, has thrown that car up the inside, and unfortunately for him and Herron, they've not been able to make it through safely. And Jack Eyre will perhaps even try and get a replay of that one, because it'd be interesting to see what happened. But Jack Eyre managing to keep his car relatively unscathed. But unfortunately for Mark Herron, he goes tumbling down the order and into 17th place in this race. And all the meanwhile, that brings Kyle Power, a man who's already been on the podium earlier tonight. That puts him into the top step of the podium, because he's got a gap of 0.2 of a second. But unfortunately, and Heney, who are both on his heels, they've gone from 7th and 8th to 2nd and 3rd. But Williamson is already looking to go for the lead on Kyle Power. The green car takes an inside and narrow defensive line, forcing Williamson wide. That's bringing Danny Heney once more into contention. But Kyle Power's not going to give this one up without a fight. That's a good bit of clean defensive driving from Kyle Power, taking the inside line here into the right-hander of the S curves. Good bit of driving from the green car. That is giving Fraser Williamson nowhere to go, and of course bringing Danny Heney into the mix here as well. So Heney's got Kieran Smart, Josh Hislop, John Higgins Jr. and Jack Eyre all close behind as well. But it's Kyle Power still leading this race. Let's get a replay from that incident earlier, though. Jack Eyre throws a car up the inside. Perhaps, I suspect that looks like a netcode incident, unfortunately, because Jack Eyre, it was nice and clean up the inside, and Mark Herron's just, unfortunately, both cars have just been drawn towards each other. Herron's come off worse of the two, unfortunately. But Jack Eyre just goes tumbling down to 7th place in this race. So he had it all. This is still the replay, of course, and you look at how he's just swarmed with a number of cars. Does Jack here, but he's very much going on a recovery drive now because he's gone from 8th and already back up to 7th place in this race. So this is the replay footage from that incident with Jack here. Looking like he's just trying to always weave that car left and right and just trying to make sure there's no damage, there's no things going wrong with that car. But he's managed to thankfully keep it on the track and out of any real further drama. So Mark Heron, unfortunately, coming out worse for wear between the two of them, and Jack here tumbling down the order. Jack fancied a race win and he fancied making a move, but just unfortunately not managed to make that one work on this occasion. That's the thing with iRacing. We have netcode incidents where the platform projects that two cars are likely to come together because everyone's internet connection, everyone is different, and with drivers racing from all over the UK, and it's one of these things. Unfortunately, the platform thinks that there's contact, and one for wear on this occasion. But we'll get back to live action in just a moment. But to bring you up to speed, we've got Danny Heney in the lead of this race from Fraser Williamson. So there has been a change at the front. Kyle Power has gone into 3rd place with Josh Hislop in 4th at the moment and Kieran Smart in 5th. These are now live pictures here from the racing here with just almost a third of the way through. It's Danny Heney leading from Fraser Williamson. Can Danny Heney make it 3 from 3 here tonight? He would be one of just a few drivers who have managed to do a clean sweep in any of our SMRC eSports racing events. Accolade to go for here if he can do it. But it's Heney from Williamson with Kyle Power, the green car of Kyle Power, in 3rd place in this race. Williamson just getting the car hooked up nicely on the hairpin there. But it looks like two and a bit, maybe 0.3 of a second between him and Danny Heney. Let's see if Williamson can now turn the tables and put Heney under pressure here for the last race of the season. Heney's keen to make this 3 wins from 3, but Fraser Williamson will not want him to sign off with that under his belt. Let's see if Fraser Williamson can put Heney under pressure here. 0.3 of a second is the gap as they make their way out of Spoon Curve for the 3rd time of asking. Fraser Williamson now begins to rule in the red car of Heney. Will he throw the car up the inside into 130R? He's got the gap down to 0.2 of a second. It's not going to be enough, I suspect. Gap goes down into 1. Danny Heney's not defending the position. He knows he's got it covered. And Heney retains the lead of this race. Fraser Williamson has got to think again here if he wants to make a move. And the goal will go neat and tidy into the chicane. Owen Ross having a good scrap here with John Higgins there, and there's a big lock-up there, and that brings on the further contact. There's almost just on the exit there for Owen Ross. It was just a racing incident there. Owen Ross coming out the corner and the car behind just clipping the rear and the diffuser of that car. Hopefully minimal contact and damage for the pair of them. Dale Smith's just gone tumbling down the order there ever so slightly. He's had a little bit of a moment, but back at the front row, Danny Heney's just posted the fastest lap of the race with a 1:59.1. That is 2 and a bit tenths of a second quicker than Fraser Williamson's fastest lap, which was also posted at the last time of asking. Kyle Power very much still in the mix here, as is indeed Josh Hislop, the 2 green cars in 3rd and 4th place. But it's Heney and Fraser Williamson. 1/10 of a second is the gap, but it's not much use into Degners 1 and 2. They're not a passing place. So Fraser Williamson's just got to be patient here and crucially get a clean exit out of this one, because it's easy to get the car dragged onto the curbs here and it gets very unsettled. Yes, you've got a bit of spare tarmac there, but you're losing crucial 1/10 of a second, and that allows a car. So 0.3 of a second once more is the gap. It's that recurring theme. It's always 0.3 of a second between the pair of them, pair of these guys, but it eventually begins to reel its way down. Fraser Williamson, though, interestingly not taking the slipstream from Danny Heney as they make their way around turn 12. He's wanting to keep the car nice and settled into Spoon Curve and then begin to close the gap. You almost don't want to close the gap in too early at that part of the track. It's after the exit of Spoon. That's where they're seeing these two guys beginning to make their moves. So the gap goes down to 0.2 of a second. Heney committing into the inside nice and early. That's forcing Williamson on the outside of 130R. You've got to be cuts back across inside as that was almost a bit of a defensive move to prevent Kyle Power and Josh Hislop from taking his slipstream. So it's Heney from Williamson. Heney again looks like he's got this move covered as they go into the chicane. Fraser Williamson taking a big helping of curbing on the inside once more. Very, very aggressive in the curbs on the entry to the chicane, trying to maximise speed into that part of the track. So 2/10 of a second is the gap once more. Henny just nice and composed here. Henny's not forcing the car left and right and trying to make it big. He's just taking his normal racing line, and he's saying to Fraser Williamson, if you want to pass me, you're going to have to work for it. I'm not moving off this line. 2/10 of a second is the gap as we go over the halfway point of this race and into the fifth lap of the finale here at Suzuka. So it's still Henny from Williamson with Kyle Power in third place and Josh Hislop close behind as well. Two drivers who are making life difficult for the two race leaders here. They're very much hot on their heels and more than capable of getting themselves into contention. I dare suspect if they could almost even work together for a lap or two and get right on the rear wing of Fraser Williamson, that will make this a real four-horse race for the final win tonight and the final win this year. But at the moment, it's Danny Henny leading the way with a 0.3 of a second gap from Fraser Williamson as they make their way down they make their way through the bridge onto the right-hander and then into the left-handed hairpin. And it's one that Williamson hooks up nicely, as does Danny Henny. But Josh Hislop now very, very close to the Power. So it's Hislop and Power looking to make moves here. Let's see if Hislop will throw that car up the inside into Spoon Curve. Not quite side by side there. He's just got the rear, he's just got the front wing close to the rear of Kyle Power, but he's been brave on the brakes, and that's a fantastic bit of driving there from Josh Hislop. It looked like that move wasn't on, and he he had other ideas. A great move there from Josh Hislop. Credit to him. Kyle Power made a bit almost just very, very wide on exit there into Spoon Curve and surrendering third place in this race. But Kyle Power's already had a taste of podium action here tonight, and he want to finish off his season with a trip there once more. Back at the front note, under 1/10 of a second is the gap between Henny and Williamson. Will Henny be able to fight off the threat of Fraser Williamson once more? And it's just Danny Henny has got that car hooked up perfectly into the hairpin. Just really makes that car as wide as possible into that part of the lap. It gives Fraser Williamson nowhere to go because it's a short run from there to the start-finish line. And look at that, we're all Danny Henny almost getting a bump drop there from Fraser Williamson down the start-finish straight, but Henny securing the lead of the race once more on the sixth lap. Under 5 minutes to go in this race, so it'll be finale here tonight, but Henny leading from Williamson. Josh Hislop in third. It's role reversal because Henny, of course, is sat in second place and then made the move towards the end of the race. So will Fraser Williamson just be perhaps biding his time here and then be looking to strike on the last lap? That's exactly what Henny's done to him, and I suspect Fraser Williamson will be looking to do more of the same this time round. So Henny in the he's momentarily looking like he's in for 3 wins for 3, but it's of course, as we know, throughout this season, the events that can unfold between now and the end of the race can be packed full of highs and lows and drama. The order you see at the moment is never necessarily the order that you see at the end of a race, but it's still Henny from Williamson, Josh Hislop in third, Kyle Power in fourth, Kieran Smart in third place. Ronald Grossman worth giving a shout out to once more. He's in sixth place at the moment, started this one in ninth. Unfortunately, Jackie Chalmers has had a trip to the barrier and is into the pit lane, had to take a toll. That's going to cost time, unfortunately, for Jackie, and we'll have to pit for repairs. So back at the front, it's Henny from Williamson, 0.2 of a second a gap between the pair of them. Henny is going narrow this time round. Williamson looking like he's just not been able to make a move here into 130R because Danny Henny's just got that car picked once more on the racing line. Very, very interesting defensive driving here from Danny Henny. He's not throwing the car off the line. He's just keeping it nice and planted and saying, look, Fraser, if you want this race win, you're going to have to work for it. So let's see how things unfold as we get set for lap number 7 here at Suzuka. Let's ride on board with Fraser Williamson as they make their way down the start-finish line. Williamson weaving from left to right, getting Henny looking in his mirrors. Henny now committing to the inside line here. And now then eventually going back onto the racing line. That he's allowed one move to block off Williamson, so he takes that and once more closing the door on the 369 car. So Henny still holding on to the lead of this race from Fraser Williamson. It's a 1/10 of a second between the pair of them as they go into the S's, but Fraser Williamson still not able to find a way past Danny Henny. A bit minutes gone in this one. And let's take a look at a couple other drivers who have been making moves. And one driver who started this race from 17th on the grid was David Bolton, finds himself in 12th place. So, but a good race for the number 4 car. He's now setting his sights on Sean Dobie. Another driver worth giving a shout out to is Owen Ross, who's just made a move on John Higgins Jr. and goes into 9th place. Started this one in 11th, so it's been a good drive for him. And indeed there is the Owen Ross 420 car, so it's been a good one for him. And it's going to be difficult to make any further places, unfortunately, because it's been a significant gap between him and Richard Crozier and Jack Eyre. Of course, Jack Eyre had that moment; he looked like he was on for a race win, and then had that contact in the first lap with Mark Heron, which sent both drivers tumbling down the order. So let's follow the number 5 car of John Higgins, 11th place in this race, with Sean Dobie just ahead of him. And 2 drivers who've impressed throughout. And if there's another driver that's caught your eye, let us know in the comments below. We're live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. And we'll be awarding the Reese Motorsport Insurance Driver of the Day Award after this race here tonight. So it's Danny Henny still leading from a tenth of a second between him and Fraser Williamson as both drivers make their way into the chicane. And Henny now going on the defensive. He's not been in this position at this stage of the race. He's always been the one making the move, but now he's got to go defensive. Fraser Williamson, a driver that we know has got bags of pace. He's impressed throughout this season. You want to finish his campaign with a race win, and this will be the final lap of the race. So Fraser Williamson looking to spoil the party for Danny Henny. Henny's taken 2 wins so far tonight. He's looking to make it a clean sweep, but Fraser Williamson's got something to say about that as they make their way through the S's for the final time. Williamson hooking that car up nicely, taking a little bit more of the curb than Danny Henny. Danny Henny's just all about getting that car nice and parked and just apexes and exits, but Fraser Williamson's got to take a little bit more of a gamble here if he wants to win this race. 0.2 of a second is the gap between the pair of them as they go up the left-hander Dunlop curve for the final time into Degner's 1 and 2. It's all about being patient here in these cars. Williamson weaving from left to right, getting Danny Henny to look in his mirrors, perhaps force him to miss his braking point and into a mistake, but Henny has got that one covered, hooked the car up nice and neatly into Degner's 1 and 2. Hairpin's not an overtaking manoeuvre for the pair of these guys, so Danny Henny will have this one covered. And I wonder if he's got enough here just to hold on to the lead of this race. Fraser Williamson almost trying to overtake Henny on the exit of the hairpin there because he's got a fantastic run out of that corner. But will he be able to make the move on Danny Henny? Was so close between those 2 cars. On Danny Henny managing once more to hold on to the racing line. He's not being unnerved by the moves of Williamson here as they go round Spoon Curve. And this is the crucial point in this lap and in this race. Can Fraser Williamson make the move on Danny Henny? Danny Henny goes narrow this time into 130R. Williamson narrowing that gap down to 0.1 of a second. Williamson sells him a dummy. Williamson goes into the inside lane. He goes into the lead of this race. Fraser Williamson takes the lead of this race, but Danny Henny's not giving it up without a fight. Danny Henny's got to go on the outside into the chicane. It's almost side-by-side stuff between the pair of them, but Fraser Williamson manages to close the door, and it will be Fraser Williamson who takes the checkered flag and wins the final race here tonight and the final race of the season. It's Williamson from Henny with Josh Hislop in 3rd, Kyle Power in 4th, Kieran Smart in 5th place. Another fantastic bit of racing from them. It's Williamson who prevents the clean sweep of Danny Henny, and that was a fantastic way to round off our SMRC eSports Racing Autumn Cup and indeed our SMRC eSports Racing season. So it's Williamson from Henny with Josh Hislop on the final step of the podium. And it was 2 third places from Josh Hislop as well. And it's been a very strong drive from him tonight. So it's we've got the final few cars just making their way over the start-finish line, and still points to be won and lost throughout there. Stu Wine is just coming across the line now for 16th place ahead of Cameron Ritchie, but Jackie Chalmers unfortunately not able to get back out there on track, so will finish this one in 18th place with Gaz Brown in 19th. Robert McGregor, Aidan Wilson, Jonathan Glover also all in the pits and out of this race. So that is it for a dramatic 3 races here at Suzuka. We thought it was going to produce fantastic racing. It did just that, and Fraser Williamson took the final win tonight, 0.5 of a second between him and Danny Henny, with Josh Hislop rounding out the final step of the podium. So throughout the field, but some dramatic stuff from start to finish at the front, and it's Fraser Williamson who signs off in style with a fantastic win at Suzuka. So we'll catch up with a number of the drivers after that one in just a few moments' time as they prepare to join us in the virtual commentary box. I'm really looking forward to hearing the thoughts of a number of the drivers out there and it was just some fantastic action from start to finish, wasn't it? Suzuka's it's always a track that produces great drama, and there's lots and lots of talking points after that one. So it was a great way to sign off our SMRC eSports season, and it's certainly hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did, because that for me is what sim racing's all about. Two fantastic drivers at the front, just going from just fighting, exchanging blows all the way throughout, not just one race, not just two races, but 3 races there as well. So fantastic action between the pair of them. We, of course, have to award a Reese Motorsport Insurance Driver of the Day accolade, and it's a very, very tricky accolade to award after some fantastic driving throughout the field. But I'm going to give the final Reese Motorsport Insurance Driver of the Day award to the red car of Danny Heney, who treated us to some fantastic action throughout. So it will be Danny Heney who picks up the final Reese Motorsport Insurance Driver of the Day award. I'm really looking forward to catching up with Danny and a number of the drivers in just a few moments' time. So let's see who joins us in the virtual commentary box. Let's take a look at who's in at the moment. And in fact, let's catch up with our winner from the final with Fraser Williamson, because he signed off his season in style with an impressive win there in the finale. Who joins us now? Fraser, that was 3 absolutely incredible races between yourself and Danny Heney. You prevented Danny from taking a clean sweep there with some fantastic driving tonight. Just talk us through not just that last lap, but the 3 races that you had, because that was some fantastic stuff to watch.
I was unsure with the dirty air in the first race. That's why I battled so hard at the start to stay in front, because I was unsure if I could keep up behind him. Just to see if I could stay within striking distance. Obviously, that was shown when he beat me to the line and made me look a bit of a fool for battling that hard. Then in race 2, I thought I may as well just give myself the chance of trying to defend from the front. The worst I can then do is second. That didn't work, so I was just trying to let Danny in front pretty much throughout the start of race 3, and thankfully it worked out this time.
Fraser, that was some terrific defensive driving from you, though, it must be said. I mean, Danny was putting you under all kinds of pressures there. He was using every trick in the book to try and force you into a mistake, but to keep up that level of composure and concentration throughout was very, very impressive stuff. But was there perhaps a part of the track that you wanted to defend in particular from Danny, that you felt he was maybe quick at, and was there was one that you just felt you had as wide as possible?
After a while, I knew that he was not going to go for it, so it didn't really make a difference, if that makes sense. It was everything up until that final chicane. There was just, I don't know. Yeah, I just couldn't make up my mind of what I wanted to do for the final laps each time, and that's what kind of cost me the races. It wasn't like a particular corner or section, because we evened out across the track. It was all fine through that, but yeah, it was just down to like racecraft and strategy at the end. Just kind of let me down slightly.
Yeah, but Fraser, you sign off absolutely fantastic campaign in style with a victory, though, and just looking. I mean, how does that make you feel? Because it's been some great action throughout a number of different cars, of course, lots of different tracks, and you are our overall champion.
Yeah, it's good. It's forced me out of my comfort zone a lot with different cars. Normally, I just stick to the endurance stuff and don't really move away. So it's been good. It's different for me to do 3 50-minute sprint races with reverse grids. It's all very different, and I'm just glad that this time, unlike GT4s, I didn't choke it.
So Fraser, what's next for you then? What's the plans? You are, of course, our champion. You'll go from virtual to reality, but what else is in store for you?
I wish I knew. There's nothing much planned. It's just crack on with the endurance stuff, really, and see where it goes. But there's no plan set in stone, sadly.
Well, Fraser, I'm sure you'll be quick in whatever you do next. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch you out there on track this season, and we wish you all the very best for what lies ahead. Fraser, thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
That is our race winner from race number 3 there, Fraser Williamson, speaking to us on the show. Let's catch up with our Reese Motorsport Insurance driver of the day, a man that took 2 wins from 3 at Suzuka. It's Danny Heney who joins us now. Danny, many congratulations. You are our Reese Motorsport Insurance driver of the day. That was some fantastic racing from start to finish between yourself and Fraser Williamson. Just talk us through that one from your perspective.
Oh, mate, honestly, I'm still coming down off it. I was just saying to the lads in the room, that's probably the most fun I've had racing for a long time. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I was really enjoying it with Fraser. And the first couple of laps in race one, we were knocking a few bells out of each other. And I was trying everything I could in different places. And then I thought, right, I'll just play it safe, wait for him, and I'll nail him into the chicane on the last lap. And it worked because I'd done it a few times and he'd got me into turn one, so I knew I could get to the line first. Race 2 was a bit role reversal and I was dreading it with him following me because he just would not pass. And thank God he made a move out to try and fake going by. And the minute he did, I hit the brakes. So he could fly past and I could tuck him behind him. Done the same again. And then our race 3 was the worst one because we come through the pack and the minute I got in front of him, I was trying everything I could do. I was on team speak to Jack saying, lads, I'm going as slow as I can to back him into the pack. For the love of God, someone please just have a nibble at him to get him out of the way. And they didn't, so I thought I'd throw it down the outside at the last chicane. And it turns out you can't brake 25 metres later and still get through there. But it was worth a shot.
No, and Danny, it was some great scrapping between the pair of you, and it was one where we spoke ahead of this one. You said this was a track that you were very familiar with, you really enjoyed racing on, and I wonder, was Spoon Curve the area of the track in particular? You just seemed to get a very clean exit, and that was giving you the run down the straight and into 130R. That was that part of the track in particular you looked very, very comfortable with in that car.
It is, yeah. To be fair, most of the corners I'm quite strong, which is why I was kind of confident coming into it. But there's a few key points. I mean, through the S's, I use 5th gear rather than 4th, what a lot of people do, to give a bit more stability to the car, so you can push it a bit more. It don't move around as much. And in Spoon, the key is, I don't know how many people know it, but there's a bump just on the entry into the last bit. And you've got to get the nose in over the bump before you get to it. And it hooks you up and you can just plant the throttle out. If you miss that and go over the bump, it just washes you wide. And I think that was the key. I knew as long as I was within 4 to 5 tenths of Fraser going into Spoon, I'd have a good shot at it down the back straight into the chicane. But it was brilliant. Surprisingly, you could follow a lot better than we all expected as well. The dirt, wasn't as bad as we expected. But the toe was... the day was horrendous. You just couldn't break them from behind following you.
No, absolutely. So, Danny, what's your plans for the next wee while then? What have you got in store?
I'm not too sure at the minute. I race in another league on the Missed Apex F1 podcast, so that's like my main focus in the F3. I've won that the last 2 seasons, so we've just started that. So I had a solid first round, so I'll be doing a bit in that, and then. How much I've enjoyed racing with you guys, I must admit, you've gone up there as well as a priority to come back and race, depending on the car, of course. If you choose a car what I'm rubbish in, I'll be a one-season wonder. But yeah, certainly I think the racing, the guys, everyone's been brilliant. The comms, the stream, and well done to Fraser. I mean, amazing driver, absolutely amazing. Deserved the championship. Bit gutted I had to miss the round because I think I could have pushed him a bit harder than what he had it, but. Really enjoyed it, so I'm sure I'll be back to join you guys again next season.
Yeah, it'd be great to see you out there, Danny. Thanks very much for joining us, and all the best with your future championships.
Cheers, thank you.
That is Danny Heney joining us there. Let's catch up with Josh Hislop, because he took 2 podium. It was 2 third-place finishes for Josh Hislop, who joins us now. Josh, that was a great way to round off your campaign. You must be very, very happy with that one.
Yeah, really happy with that. Didn't get the best of starts, just got too much wheel spin on a couple of them. But then other than that, it was a really good night, and yeah, happy with 2 third places.
Yeah, I mean, and you've been a regular visitor to the podium throughout in this Autumn Cup. Is this just a car that you've felt comfortable with from start to finish?
Yeah, it's been quite a good car. I've really enjoyed it. It's not one that I'd driven prior to competing in this cup, but I've enjoyed it at every track we've driven it.
Yeah, definitely. And has there been a moment in particular in the autumn for you?
No, I think all of it's just been really enjoyable. I mean, I've had good, clean racing all the way through, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, definitely. And looking ahead to the next few months, I was just asking Danny and Fraser there what they've got planned. Have you got anything lined up as we go into the winter?
No, not got anything planned just yet. I think just take it as it comes. See what there is to do.
Quite right. Well, I'm sure you'll be quick in whatever you decide to do, Josh. It was a great campaign for you in the Autumn Cup. It's been great to watch you out there, and thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
That is Josh Hislop there. Let's catch up with the man who was on the podium in the first race here tonight, which was Kyle Power, who rounded out the final step of the podium in the opener. Kyle joins us now. Kyle, that was 3 dramatic races to watch. Just what was it like out there on track?
Oh, it was brilliant, thanks. I was mainly a spectator. I was just sitting, especially in race 1. We were just sitting, didn't know the leaders are quicker, but they were absolutely like taking chunks out of each other. So I was just quite happy to sit there and observe because I knew they'd drag me along. My pace isn't that great on my own. So and luckily Kieran was being really good as well. I think it was in race 2. Was just working with me the whole way. To try and not let him go. But it was just funny. They suddenly cottoned on in the middle of the race and then communicated to each other and like, right, let's stop battling and to try and break. And then they managed to break. So, yeah, it was really good. But I spent most of the races just sort of observing what's happening in front and then waiting to pounce at the end.
Yeah, and you've signed off your season with 5 trips to the podium in this Autumn Cup. So, I mean, you must be really pleased with that as well.
All right. I didn't realise there was 5 podiums. Yeah, very, very pleased with that. I know I'm not the fastest guy, but yeah, if I can try and put myself in a mix amongst faster drivers, then I'm always going to be a happy boy.
Yeah, definitely. And the Formula cars as well. Were you just quite happy with those cars and just feel quite kind of dialed in with them?
Oh yeah, generally I'm a bit of a downforce junkie. So yeah, I love my single seaters and stuff like that. I'm not so good in sort of GT cars and sort of tin tops and stuff. So yeah, I'm more of a single seater man.
Good stuff. Well, Kel, thanks very much for joining us and competing in the Autumn Cup. It's been great to watch you out there on track, and I look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Lovely. Cheers. I hope to be back soon.
That's Kyle Power joining us there with our Rethink Racing man, Jack, who can join us in the commentary box. Jack Ayre joins us now. Jack, you were on for a win there in the finale, and then it looked like a netcode to me at Spoon Curve. Just kind of talk us through what happened.
Yeah, decent start. Managed to get the majority of the lap done on the cold tyres, and I was pushing, as I was everybody else. And yeah, I just wanted to get the move done early because I thought if I wait too long, I'm going to get trained on Spoon, around Spoon and onto the straight through 130R. So I thought I'll try and get it done here, and then it might back him up into them. They'll be side by side, and I might be able to shoot off. And yeah, just some netcode. It looks, because I did have a look back at the stream just before our chat now, and yeah, just netcode, and it turned him into me. And luckily, I mean, I managed to get away unscathed. Apart from the lap, the time that I lost, the lap time that I lost, the car was largely unaffected. I was quite lucky, so I'm hoping that. I think it was Mark Heron. I'm hoping that he didn't have any damage either, because yeah, I don't like to take people out or be involved in incidents. But yeah, this round's just been unlucky for me. Bad qualifying and a couple of decent starts, but no consistency. And spanning race 1 and almost the same in race 3 on the last lap. It's just not. I mean, I enjoy Suzuka, I love it, but it's just not been my day today, fortunately. But I've enjoyed it nonetheless.
But Jack, it's been some year for you as well. Of course, you've been a regular throughout our SMRC sports racing events. But of course, you've joined us in the real world as well, in the Scottish C1 Cup as well. You've already gone from virtual to reality. It's been a busy year for you, to say the least. So when you kind of sit back and reflect on what you've achieved, you must be very, very proud.
Yeah, it's nice to actually look back on this year and say that I've actually done something, because 2020 was the year where nobody did anything. So yeah, to have 2 weeks notice, getting a phone call from good old Flymo Mikey Weddle whilst I'm just minding my own business at work, and he tells me that I've got 2 weeks to get my ARDS license and all the gear that I need and get to Knockhill. Yeah, I was chomping at the bit. I got everything done and debuted in real life. I've done 6 races with you now, 4 at Knockhill and 2 at Cadwell. So it's been mega. I never thought I'd be in this position this time last year.
For you then, Jack, what's in store in 2022?
Oof, I don't know. It's yeah, Formula One, I think. Just as a spectator, you know, see what the new regs are all about. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, in this interview room with you and Dunk when he gets back from his WEC commentary. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys. Thanks to everybody at SBTV, Pete, Mo, Tom, and everybody else, and to the SMRC for putting this together. It's been great, and yeah, I think this has marked the end of the 3rd year that I've been racing with you guys. The first in the Legends, second in the GT4s, and now the 3 championships this year. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm enjoying it. So hope to see you soon.
It's been great to have you out there on track, Jack. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
That is Jack here. Let's catch up with just the last few drivers, starting with Richard Crozier, who joins us. Richard's had a very eventful. He joins us now. Richard, that is the end of our Autumn Cup. 3 dramatic races at Suzuka, and just talk us through your event on the whole.
On the whole, a bit disastrous. First race was going not too badly, but trying to keep out of trouble. And Owen and myself had a coming together at 1:30 and ended up in the wall fairly heavily. I think that was comparable to McNish's shunt there a few years ago. So that was that. I was down to 17th in that. Kind of ambled our way back to 10th in the in race 2 and ran out of puff. Race 3 was better, but yeah, I tried to hang with the pace at the front, but they're too fast to be fair. I think the pace is getting there. Only 3 rounds this series, and compared to where it was at Imola, the pace is steadily getting there. But still a lot to not done much in this car, so still a lot to figure out. So it's a wee bit frustrating to not be quite where my pace would I would like it to be. But nonetheless had fun. That was probably one of the more enjoyable races. To be fair, everybody was really pretty clean by and large. So it was good.
And Richard, you mentioned it was a big shunt there at 130R. And how do you as a driver kind of recover from that and focus into races 2 and 3? Because I think it's easy when you have a big incident, particularly early in an event, to just let that affect you and the head drops, and before you know it, your whole event's kind of unravelled. How did you clear your mind and just focus 2 races after that?
I think this series it's not too bad because you know that anything can happen. So you just got to kind of and you know that it's just going to happen to everybody at some point during the season. So you just got to try and knuckle down as best you can, and especially with a top 8 reverse for race 3. I mean, that kind of provides a bit of a motivator almost. You know that you can, for me, if you're down in 17th or whatever, 8th in race 2 seems achievable. So. It gives you something to aim for as well, and the formats work really well for these races, and especially with how close it's been between everybody. So it's I've been in the game long enough that I'm able to do that sort of thing. So it's not been too bad, but yeah, it can. Some days the frustration can get the better of you as well.
That's the beauty of iRacing as well, isn't it? You know, it's like you kind of get yourself on a roll, and then it's just one of these ones. It can be a net code here, it can be something that goes wrong, and it's just a little bit dusting yourself down and going again, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's near impossible to try and have a 100% record on this thing. You'll always get something that knocks you down. It's just a bit how fast you recover. But I just try and keep enjoying it as much competitive as it can be. It's a computer game at the end of the day. So in some ways.
That's it. Well, Richard, it's been great to watch you out there, and thanks very much for speaking to us after the races.
Cheers, guys. Thanks to all at SMRC for putting this together. Cheers.
And that is Richard Crozier there, who joins us in the virtual commentary box. Let's catch up with the final driver tonight to join us for a quick chat, and it's someone who has been a real cornerstone of the SMR eSports Racing Cups. He's been competing in the Mazdas and the TCRs, and indeed in our Formula cars. It's Sean Dobie who joins us now. And Sean, it's been quite a season when you look back on it. Lots of different cars, lots of different tracks, and that's it for the end of the year. How do you just had?
For a start, number one, thanks to obviously SMRC for organising all this. It's been great fun as somebody who doesn't have the I guess the means to run a real car. Doing it virtually is brilliant, great fun, and almost like, I suppose, though it's not physically right the same thing, it's very much the same mentality. In terms of the season, I came in really just hoping for top 20. So I think tonight's results put me 12th. So I'm over the moon with that. I definitely feel like I've been getting better. Maybe not in the Formula Renault here, but certainly through the year, through the touring cars and the tin tops, it's been good.
Yep. I think it was last time out at Silverstone, 6th place finish. That was your best result of the season as well.
Yes.
That was a great drive in particular.
I was over the moon with that. I feel like my mentality this year has just been keep it clean, be consistent, and just get to the end, and you rack up the points that way. I mean, I finished in the points in all the races in the touring car, so it's paid off really well. So now to get 6th last time was, I think, a real reward for how I've done this year.
So what's the kind of plans for you then, Sean? What's kind of on the horizon?
I think I need to work out what the difference is between me and the mid pack and the guys at the front, and try and work out over the Christmas how to maybe bridge that gap a little bit, because I'm still probably about a second or two off. So if I can do that and start catching the back of them, then I think I'll be really happy next year.
Good stuff. Well, Sean, it's been great watching you throughout all of the SMRC eSports Cups, and look forward to following you again next year. Thanks, Sean. Thanks very much for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks.
That is Sean Dobie there. And that is all we've got time for in this broadcast. This is the last one year, and we've got lots planned for 2022 and beyond, and hopefully we'll see you out there in the virtual world out there on iRacing. We've had Mazda MX-5, we've had the Audi RS3 TCR cars, and we've signed off with Formula Renault 2 litres. We've had some dramatic action throughout the year, but it's Fraser Williamson who is finishing it all on the top step of the podium. He is a man who goes from virtual to reality and will join us on the SMRC grid for real next year. But on behalf of the SMRC Sim Broadcasts, I've been Andy Alston. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you out there once again in the coming months. Thanks very much for joining us.